The entire Philippine MLBB scene exploded the moment Team Liquid PH announced that Kiel Calvin Soriano, aka Oheb, was simply being moved to inactive status. At first, fans thought it was just another temporary roster adjustment before MPLPH Season 17. But then everything changed. Oheb's legal representatives later revealed that he had already submitted a formal resignation weeks earlier, instantly turning a normal esports update into one of the biggest controversies in recent MLBB history. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't just about roster changes anymore. It became about transparency, player rights, contract power, and whether organizations should communicate these situations more clearly to the public. Welcome back to Mobile Legends News. After dominating 2025 with multiple MPL Philippine Championships and a massive MSC victory run, Team Liquid PH look untouchable. Their chemistry, discipline, and superstar lineup made them the face of competitive MLBB, and Oheb became one of the team's biggest pillars during that era. That's exactly why fans were blindsided when Team Liquid initially announced that Oheb would move into an inactive role while still remaining part of the organization. But shortly after, Oheb's camp clarified that he had already formally resigned back in February 6, creating confusion over what really happened behind the scenes and whether the organization handled the announcement properly. To really understand why this controversy became so massive, you have to look at the timing of everything. On the surface, this looked like a normal roster change, but once details started coming out from both sides, the situation quickly became one of the most heavily debated management controversies in recent MLBB esports history. At the center of everything was the announcement from Team Liquid PH that Oheb would be placed under inactive status. Normally, organizations use this wording when a player is temporarily stepping away from active competition while still remaining under contract. In esports, that can mean several things: rest periods, internal adjustments, transfer negotiations, or even temporary role restructuring. So initially, many fans assumed this was just another strategic roster move before MPLPH Season 17 officially began. But the reaction changed almost instantly when statements from Oheb's legal representatives began circulating online. According to Oheb's camp, the gold laner had already formally submitted his resignation weeks earlier, reportedly around early February. That detail completely changed the narrative because it suggested that the situation was not simply a temporary inactive arrangement. Instead, it raised questions about why the public announcement from Team Liquid PH framed the situation differently from how Oheb's side described it. That's where the community split into two major sides. One side defended Team Liquid PH. From the organization's perspective, timing was probably the biggest issue. MPLPH roster preparation is extremely sensitive because the league is one of the most competitive regions in all of Mobile Legends. Teams don't just replace players overnight. Entire systems are built around synergy, communication, hero pools, scrim schedules, drafting tendencies, and in-game shot calling structures. Losing a franchise-level gold laner shortly before a new season creates an enormous pressure internally. And this wasn't just any player. This was Oheb, a former world champion and one of the most recognizable gold laners in Philippine MLBB history. During Team Liquid's PH dominant 2025 campaign, Oheb played a massive role in stabilizing the team's late-game teamfights and objective control. His experience and chemistry with the roster became a huge part of why the team consistently looked composed under pressure. So from Team Liquid PH's point of view, suddenly losing him near the start of MPLPH Season 17 could genuinely disrupt months of preparation. That's why some fans believe that the organization may have been trying to buy time internally before fully confirming his departure publicly. In traditional sports and esports alike, organizations sometimes delay announcements while finalizing replacements, resolving contracts, or handling ongoing discussions behind closed doors. Some supporters argued that Team Liquid PH may have wanted to avoid immediate panic within the fanbase while they worked on contingency plans. But then came the second side of the controversy. Oheb's camp strongly pushed back against online narratives suggesting he had disappeared or stopped communicating with management. His legal representatives reportedly clarified that communication channels remained active and the resignation process had already been formally initiated. This became extremely important because public reception started shifting from unexpected roster change to possible communication mismatch between player and organization. And honestly, that's where things started becoming really messy. Because Team Liquid PH did not immediately provide a detailed follow-up explanation. Speculation completely exploded across the MLBB community. Fans started filling in the blanks themselves. Some accused the organization of intentionally softening the story to protect its image. Others believed Team Liquid PH was trying to keep negotiations private until all roster decisions were finalized. Meanwhile, another group argued that both sides were technically correct but simply communicating different stages of the same process. The silence created a vacuum, and esports communities always react strongly when information is incomplete. Social media discussions became chaotic almost overnight. Some fans sided with the organization, arguing that roster instability before MPLPH Season 17 could seriously hurt competitive performance. Others sided with Oheb, believing players deserve clearer representation when major career decisions are announced publicly. The debate eventually became bigger than just one player leaving a roster. It evolved into a wider discussion about how esports organizations should communicate sensitive roster issues in general. Then things became even more complicated with the arrival of Aaron Shiki. Team Liquid PH moved quickly to secure a replacement option, and for a short period, Aaron Shiki appeared to be part of the organization's solution heading into the new season. But the signing did not last long, creating even more uncertainty around the roster situation. Fans immediately began questioning whether the team was still scrambling internally to stabilize its lineup after Oheb's departure. And in high-level MLBB esports, instability matters a lot. Unlike casual ranked games, professional MLBB teams rely heavily on long-term chemistry. Gold laners need synchronized positioning with roamers and junglers. Macro rotations are practiced repeatedly through scrims. Even minor roster disruptions can affect drafting confidence and teamfight execution. So when the Aaron Shiki move did not fully stabilize the situation, fans became even more convinced that Team Liquid PH was dealing with a difficult internal transition. Eventually, the organization promoted Teddy Cutie into the active lineup. And interestingly enough, this move actually shifted community reactions again. Some fans viewed Teddy Cutie's promotion as proof that Team Liquid PH still had long-term developmental plans despite the controversy. Others believe the organization should have communicated this decision much earlier to reduce confusion. There were also fans who argued that the team's silence unintentionally damaged trust because it allowed rumors and assumptions to dominate the conversation for days. What makes this controversy especially fascinating is that there was never a simple villain versus hero narrative. From Team Liquid PH's perspective, protecting internal negotiations and maintaining roster stability before MPLPH Season 17 may have been the priority for them. From Oheb's side, clarifying that formal communication had already happened was equally important for protecting his professional reputation. Both sides had reasons to control the narrative, but because communication to the public lacked clarity early on, the community filled the gaps with speculation. And in modern esports, perception spreads incredibly fast. One unclear announcement can instantly become a massive public relation issue, especially in a region as passionate as the Philippines, where MLBB esports culture is deeply connected to fan identity. That's why the Oheb controversy became more than just a roster update. It became a case study on how communication, timing, transparency, and player relations can completely shape public opinion in competitive Mobile Legends. In the end, whether Team Liquid PH handled the Oheb situation correctly really depends on which perspective you prioritize. From a management standpoint, the organization was likely trying to preserve roster stability and avoid chaos before MPLPH Season 17 began. But from the community's perspective, the lack of immediate clarity and the conflicting narratives between both sides created confusion that quickly turned into backlash. The controversy ultimately showed how crucial transparent communication has become in modern MLBB esports, especially when superstar players and passionate fan bases are involved. So, what do you guys think? Did Team Liquid PH handle the situation reasonably considering the pressure of preparing for a new MPL season? Or should they have communicated everything more clearly from the very beginning? And moving forward, how do you think esports organizations should handle sensitive player exits without creating massive community confusion? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Mobile Legends News for more MLBB esports breakdowns, roster drama, and competitive scene updates. Till next time!